I want GTA 6 to fail. And I don't mean that in the fake YouTube contrarian way where I pretend the biggest game on earth is going to be trash just because that makes for a better title. I think GTA 6 is going to be good, maybe even incredible. Rockstar has had more time and resources than almost anyone, and GTA is basically the one series big enough to make every other game feel irrelevant for a while. And that's not even the part that bothers me. Here's what actually does. $80 for the base game, $100 if you want the version that's clearly designed to make the standard edition feel like the boring option. And yeah, technically there's a physical box on the shelves. Crack it open and there's no disc inside, just a download code, so congratulations, you bought collector's item for your download button. So there's no reselling the actual disc, you can't trade it in, you can't even lend it to your friends, none of that. You're just being granted access to GTA 6 on Rockstar's terms, for as long as Rockstar feel like those terms should apply. And under normal circumstances, sure, fine, that's just one expensive game in the sea of expensive games. Mildly annoying, but not exactly a crisis. The reason this one's different is the scale. GTA 6 isn't one publisher quietly testing how far they can push pricing on a mid-tier release nobody's paying attention to. This is the franchise. This is the one launch every single studio in the industry is going to be watching. Not for the reviews or if the players are happy, for the numbers. So picture this, launch week, tens of millions of copies sold in days. Every headline calling it the biggest entertainment release in history, and the game's actually good, which means by week or two, nobody's even talking about the price anymore. Because complaining about money feels petty when you're 40 hours deep in something you genuinely love. That's the moment that should actually worry you, not the launch itself, the silence after it. Because somewhere in some room we're never gonna see, somebody is pulling up the sales chart and asking people a very simple question. Sure, there's been some noise online about the pricing, a bit of grumbling in the comments, a few think pieces, but none of it moved the needle. $80, $100 for the loaded version, no actual disc anywhere, and people are still pre-ordering in numbers that makes the complaints look irrelevant. So what exactly is stopping anyone else from doing this too? Nothing. That's the answer nobody wants to say out loud. Nothing is stopping them. We're supposedly the thing that's meant to stop them, and we never actually do, because the second the game's good, every principle we claim to have evaporates instantly. You know who I think about every time this comes up? Ubisoft. And honestly, not even just Ubisoft, every scummy studio in the industry is looking at this as an opening to get even worse. If GTA 6 proves players will pay more, accept less ownership, and still show up day one like nothing happened, that's not a Rockstar only moment anymore. That's a permission. Oh, and by the way, the subscribe button is right there. That costs nothing, so, go ahead. Anyway, none of this came out of nowhere. That's what actually gets me. It's been creeping in for years, one tiny step at a time, each one too small on its own to fight. Pre-orders became normal even when digital games can't even run out. Deluxe editions slowly turned into these versions publishers clearly want you to buy. Day one patches used to be embarrassing. Now people talk about them like they're just part of the release schedule. GTA 6 didn't invent any of this, it's just the biggest stress test it's ever gotten. I'll admit it, I'm not exactly innocent here either. I've pre-ordered things I had no business pre-ordering. Told myself it's gonna be different this time. Both editions stacked with content I used once. Most people watching this have a version of that story. That's not exactly a coincidence. That's the entire business model working exactly the way it's supposed to. I'm not saying the game's gonna be bad, I genuinely think it's gonna be great, and that's actually what makes this complicated instead of simple. It's easy to root against something you expect to suck. It's a completely different thing to root against the financial outcome of something you already fairly sure you're gonna love. But quality was never the thing deciding this, profit decides this. A great game with predatory structure teaches the industry the exact same lesson as bad one does. As long as the money keeps showing up either way, and we're about to find out which version of the lesson the next decade gets built on. So call it dramatic, call it whatever you want, I genuinely don't care. I want the numbers to come in just soft enough that someone internally has to ask why, instead of cashing the check and immediately drafting the sequel price hike. That's the whole ask, not a flop, just one actual consequence. It's probably not happening, the hype's too big, the game's probably too good, and history's not exactly on my side here. Anyway, subscribe and I love you. Bye!